Alright, this is chainsaws for beginners or amateurs. This is also a comparison between the Husqvarna 240E and the Husqvarna 450. Now remember, we've all bought cheap power tools before and given ourselves a hernia trying to get them started, and that's why you buy Husqvarna or Stihl in the chainsaw market, although I hear Echo is pretty good too. The 240E weighs in at about 11 pounds. The 450 weighs in at about 14 pounds. The 3-pound difference really is not all that significant when you're sawing. Remember, the 450 has much more power and it will make that cut faster, so it'll save your back in some respects. The 240 though is very convenient. It's light, it's great for pruning. It will do logs up to about 12 inches in diameter. The 450 will do logs up to about 16 inches in diameter. This comes with a 16-inch bar. The chain, the 16-inch chain, is called a 3/8 LP by 0.050 by 56. The 56 is 56 teeth. That determines the length of the chain, although we all know that means it's 16-inch. But whereas you can go to Home Depot and you can buy an S56, it'll fit this saw. If you go to Home Depot and you get a G72, it will not fit the Husqvarna 450. Even though 72 refers to the length and it even says 18 inches, there's something about the guides that bind up in the bar. And it's much better to buy all your stuff at an outfit like Bailey'sOnline.com, because this can save you some money. They always have good deals, and they have a chain guide that is a comparison of chains that it lists all the different sizes of chainsaws, and you can figure out which one is for your particular saw. The 450 uses a 0.325 by 0.50 by 72, and but the 450 comes in two different kinds of widths: a standard bar and then a narrow kerf bar. So make sure that if you get a narrow kerf bar, and that's what comes with the saw, that you always get a narrow kerf chain to go with it. And only a comparison guide like they have Bailey's Online will list all the narrow kerf chains together and then all the standard chains together. Ultimately, I took off the bar that came with the Husqvarna 450 because the sprocket wheel was really tight. The sprocket wheel doesn't want to spin very well, so when you start the saw up, you want to have the chain be able to move. If it can't move, it's going to kill. And remember also that these have a safety bar, a safety block here for your hand. If your hand hits this, instead of going into the chain, it's going to break that chain. It puts on a brake. So to take the brake off, you pull this back. So to start the saw, you always want this pulled back, because it doesn't start very easily with the brake on the chain, even though it's probably safer. When you first get the saw, you need to put gas in here. That's 50 to 1, and that's 2.5 ounces of 2-stroke oil per gallon of gasoline. A gallon of gasoline is probably going to last you a whole year. This holds about a pint. You have to keep this full, because if this gets below 1/3 full, because of the vibration and the gas sloshing around, you're going to start sucking air. So always top off your tank. The front cavity is for oil. You can just put in oil to lube the chain out of, old oil from changing your truck. You don't have to put new oil in this. You can buy bar and chain combos for any of these saws. This is another narrow kerf bar, and make sure you get the chain that comes with it, of course, will be one that fits this bar. So just decide whether you're going to do standard or narrow kerf and just stick with that. This is the 450. Ultimately, I ended up putting on an Oregon bar. This is double guard. That means there's no kickback, supposedly. I don't even know what a kickback is, but it's good to have some kind of safety feature. Remember, the chain also has to be a non-kickback chain that goes with this. And this is a very good setup. I feel very confident about this. To start this up, you make sure that there's gas in your bubble pump. If there isn't, pump it. If there is, just leave it alone. You don't want to flood the engine. There used to be toggle switches for on and off, and they don't have that anymore. They have a combination toggle. If it relatively will stay in a run position, if you push it down, you'll turn the engine off. If you pull it out and push it up, it will lock into a choke position. So you pull a couple times till the motor pops, and then you push it back down into the run position and pull it a couple times and it will start. This 450 also has a button here that you can press in that decompressions the compression chamber and makes it a little bit easier to pull the lanyard. It pops back out automatically when the saw is started. Generally, we usually just cut 12 to 16 inch diameter logs because we're cutting them 20 inches long so they fit our wood stove. And if we cut anything bigger than that, we're going to have a hard time getting in the back of the truck, and we're going to have a hard time splitting it. I always try to find wood that's maybe 1 to 5 years old. You can't burn green wood, and if it's older than 5 years, it'll be punked out and not really burn all that well. You can sharpen chains. You can get these kits that have the files. This is a .325, which is for the Husqvarna 450. It comes with round files to file each teeth. Remember that when you file the teeth, you have to have a 10-degree up on the file, and it's got to be 30 degrees back on one tooth and 30 degrees forward on the other tooth. You can see these teeth are crosscut teeth, and every other one is facing a different direction. You also have to file down the depth guide right here. So they give you a flat file and a guide to file that down. If you don't have the depth guide to the right depth, the tooth of the saw blade will either not make contact with the wood and it'll just spin and you won't do any cutting, or it will cut too deep and you get a vibration and kind of a choppy feel to the saw, and it's probably hard on the clutch. So because these chains only cost about $18, it's really, I think, a good idea just to buy one chain every year, or buy 5 of them. You'll have chains for 5 years, because there's no reason to take all that time to file a chain down if you can just buy one for 18 bucks. I mean, what's your time worth, you know? You can also get a kit for maintenance. This comes with a spark plug, a fuel filter, and a new air cleaner. What I would do is I would blow out the air cleaner every year, and then I would change all these parts about every 5 years. And that's it. I always use, you know, ear protectors. Don't run a saw when you're drunk. Tell your kids, tell your wife not to bother you when the saw is running. Don't try to get your attention. Don't try to distract you in any way. That's good advice. And when you split the wood, remember, none of us are Hercules, so you want to use 2 mauls. You pound one in. Don't try to pull it back out and pound it again. You'll never hit the same spot. Use the second maul to pound in the first maul, and believe me, it's a lot easier on your back. Oh, and the difference between the E-Series, this is a 240 E-Series, is that you don't need a tool to adjust the chain. You just have this piece that you just push out and loosen, and then you tighten the chain with just using your thumb on this wheel, and then you tighten it back up. But you do have to use quite a bit of force to lock the bar in here, and I don't know how long this plastic piece is going to work before it breaks. So it's actually probably a better idea just to get the one that is not the E-Series. Just get the standard 240 or 450 and then use the tool, because the tool really is simple. You just loosen it, and then maybe do it an eighth of a crank or something like that to tighten the chain up. Now really the chain shouldn't be getting loose all the time on you either. The chain might loosen a little bit when it gets hot, but you want to tighten this bolt down enough where this bar doesn't slide back, because the vibration will try to slide this bar back and the chain will loosen right away. So you don't want to tighten it so much that you strip it, but then on the other hand you got to get it tight enough where the bar won't move on you. You should be able to cut for an hour without needing to tighten that chain back up. Remember, 1 pint of fuel will last you about 15 to 20 cuts on a 16-inch diameter log, and keep your fuel topped off also. I've got the choke on, and I'm just going to hit the little button here that releases the compression chamber. It makes it a little bit easier to pull the lanyard. I've got the brake off. As soon as it pops, turn the choke back off. You don't need the choke on once it pops, okay? There's fuel in there now. Now remember, you want to use ear defenders when you're operating a chainsaw. You want to have a good pair of glasses on. You can get these at Home Depot for about $10, $11, and they're supposedly protection from flying objects, okay? Hold it down for a second to turn it back off. And these saws cut like butter, so you be careful of your legs. Bailey's does make equipment that is steel-toed shoes, and they even make chaps that are kind of cut-proof chaps. Good idea. Don't walk around too much with a chainsaw running. You want to be in a standing position where you want to cut, have it clear. Don't be hopping over logs or anything like that with the chainsaw running. That's good advice. And remember, if you want to buy a Swedish chainsaw, Husqvarna or Stihl, because the Swedes are lazy. They sit around in the sauna all day, drinking beer, wondering why the sun doesn't come up in December. And another piece of good advice is, if your wife can swim, don't push her overboard, okay? Good cutting. See ya.